On today's episode, we are looking at the finances of a 38-year-old lady. She works as a business advisor and is married with one child. She says she and her husband don't discuss finances and she wants to figure hers out, get out of debt, and have investments for their child. If you're new here, hi, welcome. My name is Itumeleng. I'm a qualified management accountant, and on this channel, I help ordinary people like you learn how to start saving money, get out of debt, invest, and ultimately build wealth. If that is something you're interested in, please do subscribe and become a part of our growing rich family. Now let us get into the finances of our sister, starting with her monthly income. As a business advisor, she takes home 44,000 rands. That's a good income for our economy of Ramaphosa. Her savings and investments, she only has a retirement annuity, which she recently started. The retirement annuity is 21,000 rands. No emergency fund, no TFSA, no education fund, which she's worried about her child's savings, but she doesn't have much of her own. So we are going to have to start working on her having some savings and investments. Then whatever she has overflowing can flow to the child, right? Debt balances, she has a bond, 280,000. I said, is this the house you guys stay in? She says, no, this is the apartment that I had before I got married and I moved in with my husband. I said, okay, so this apartment, what's happening with it? Do you have a tenant in there since you're not staying there anymore? She said, no, I don't have a tenant because the apartment needs new tiles before I can get a tenant in. So I have not been able to get a tenant because of that. Tiles only. So we are continuing to pay a bond, pay levies, but we are not able to buy tiles. Tiles for me seem like such a non-issue, but we'll figure the tiles out as we go because we need to quickly get someone into that apartment so they help us pay for the bond. Even if it's not the whole amount, any reduction will go a long way. Car, 125,000 rands. Bash, 7,800 rands. Pay just now, 2,000 rands. Pay just now is a pandemic. Week in, week out, we have pay just now. FinChoice, 3,200 rands. Personal loan, 9,800 rands. In total, her debt balance is 427,800 rands. So now back to the tiles. She said she's unable to replace the tiles in the apartment because she does not have the money. If she did not have the money, she was able to get money for other things that she felt like she didn't have money for. She went to Bash and she got what? A lipstick. What's that, Bash? And then pay just now for things that are not going to bring in income. I don't like debt. You guys know I don't condone going into debt for every small thing, but we already have some debt here. And if this debt was for some tiles, I would back it up 40%. So the problem is not that we don't have money for the tiles. I think it's just it was not priority, but it will have to be now. If you say you want to get out of debt, you are going to have to start by cleaning up the bashes and the FinChoices, and then have some money, have some room to be able to fix the tiles and get a tenant. Then a lot of things are going to improve from there. Another thing about her debt, it's not bad. And she says it weighs her down. And I said, I think the reason it weighs her down is because, it was not for a good cause. If it was going towards the tiles, then you could say, yeah, it's for improving my asset so that I can have a tenant in or I can sell the place. But Bash, lipstick, jeans, no. But fortunately for her, the small debts are really not that much. Bash, pay just now, FinChoice, and the personal loan all amount to 22,800 rands. And she's going to pay off pay just now this month. So then she'll just be left with around 20,000. If we can stop taking lipsticks from Bash and going to pay just now for whatever it is that we are paying just now that is not tiles, then she should be able to get out of the small debts really quickly. Once those are out of the way, then she can start paying extra towards the car. She can start building an emergency fund and eventually get to a point where she can invest for a child just like she wants. Now let us look at her monthly expenses. Bond for that apartment with bed tiles that we need to replace is 3,110 rands. Water 700 rands. Levies 885 rands. I said, okay, so you only pay for the bond of that apartment. So I assume your husband pays for the bond of the house that you guys are currently staying in. She said, correct. I said, speaking of which, why is your husband not here? Why are his finances not here? She said, you know, ma'am, me and my husband don't talk about finances. We do everything together, but money, we've never sat down and discussed money. All I know is that he pays the mortgage for our house, and then after that, he can do his own thing. I also do my own thing. I said, and he's your husband? She said, yeah, I know. Topic for another day. No, topic for today. Topic for today, because what do you mean he just pays for the mortgage and then he can do his own thing and then you do your own thing? What? How is that going to work? Do you even know how much he makes? No, I don't know how much he makes. He also doesn't know how much I make. And we all know, we know how common this is. Couples are not discussing their finances. They are not being honest about their finances. And the danger is, she's here now. We are going to help her. She's going to be fine. I said to her, you're going to be fine. You're going to be empowered. You're going to start paying off debt and moving forward towards your financial goals. And now you are married to this man. I don't know if it's in community of property, but it's married anyway. So you are married to this man. If he is in a lot of debt, if he's struggling financially, we don't know, and I think that is very unfortunate because money is really stressful, guys. When you go through your finances alone, when you carry that load alone, like her, she had to come to me, but she couldn't go to her husband first. And I think that's so unfortunate when you have someone that you sleep with, but you don't know their finances, they don't know yours. So that needs to be fixed. That conversation needs to be had. Her car is 5,250 rands, petrol 5,900 rands. She says she travels a lot for work. Tracker 485. Groceries 3,900 rands. She says this is her half of the groceries. Her husband also contributes 3,900 rands towards groceries. So they cut it in half evenly, no mistakes. And I was like, like a military, like roommates, because if we can talk about things like I'll pay 3,900 rands for groceries, you pay your 3,900 rands, I think we are already on the money chat, and we might as well go all the way and say, how much debt do you have? How much do you get paid? Because also, how do we determine, the split? Because someone might be earning more than the other person. Someone might be having a lot more debt, a lot more responsibilities, commitments on their plate. But, so far it's been working. But I said to her, I don't know if this will go well with the husband, but we are going to try to save 900 rands from the groceries so that we can pay off the debt quicker. Groceries are one area where we tend to overspend and we say things are really expensive. And I agree they are, but when you drill down, you see that you're buying unnecessary snacks. You'll buy a bunch of snacks and tell yourself, they'll last us a week, they'll last us a month. You get home, you chunk them all up in one night, and then the following day you are out of snacks, and then you have to go buy another batch of monthly snacks. So we are going to try to stop lying about the monthly snacks. She agreed. She said, yeah, once I buy snacks, my son does not sleep. He sleeps in the pantry and eats all of them. And then, like you said, the following day we have to buy another batch of snacks. So we are just going to buy weekly snacks, not even weekly, just buy one bag of chips, let him finish it in that one night, and we have our 900 rand saving. Again, I don't know if it will fly with the husband, but we can try. Groceries for mom, 800 rands. Retirement annuity, 750 rands. Gap cover, 300 rands. Medical aid, 6,800 rands. She says she has their son and her husband on the medical aid, and the husband reimburses her 3,000 rands for, his portion, because, this couple, they don't meet like that with finances. If I pay 3,900 rands towards groceries, you also pay 3,900 rands. I'm not going to pay for your medical aid just because, you are on my medical aid. You'll have to pay me back that money. It's a bit of a mathematical relationship. But anyway, we get 3,000 rands from the husband. Life cover, 450 rands. Income protection, 990 rands. Vodacom data, 475 rands. MTN data, 479 rands. Why? Why Vodacom and MTN all at the same time? How much data does one girl need? She said that the MTN is for the home Wi-Fi and the Vodacom is for her cell phone when she's at work and she does not have access to a Wi-Fi. Okay, Vodacom has a 20 gig. Well, this is not a paid Vodacom promotion, but Vodacom has a 20 gig LTE data for about $229. I know I can only get that on the NetBank app. Again, this is also not a NetBank promo, but on the NetBank app, you can get nice deals for LTE data. Other banks I have not seen, but if you guys know of any affordable Vodacom data plans, please let us know, because 475 rands is a lot. So I'm just going to recoup 200 rands from that, and I'm sure whatever plan we come up with can, it can fit in the 275 rands. Airtime, 650 rands. Again, she says this is for the work calls. She makes a lot of calls and they don't reimburse her for airtime or data, so which is tough. Netflix, 180 rands. YouTube Premium, 82 rands. Pay just now, 1,900 rands. So it's a settlement amount she's going to be done with the pay just now this month. Thank God. FinChoice, 2,850 rands. She says this FinChoice also includes her husband's portion and her husband pays her back 1,500 rands. Okay, so this means she had to take out the FinChoice loan for her husband. Half is hers and then half is for her husband, and her husband pays her back, because these people, we can't cover each other financially like that, except for the mortgage, because the wife stays there, but other than that, if I do something for you, like I said, you paid back. So this was interesting for me, that the husband could not take out a loan for himself. The wife had to take out the loan in her name, and then the husband pays her back his portion. We can see the husband is able to pay back the loan amount. He's just unable to get it himself. Are you thinking what I'm thinking? Because me, I'm worried now. I'm worried that the husband might not be in a position where he's able to take out loans. Maybe he has a poor credit record. Maybe he's blacklisted. The possibilities are endless. And we can't be sitting here, coming up with all sorts of theories when this man is your husband. You should have some idea. You see the danger. But anyway, we accept the 1,500 rands reimbursement. Personal loan, 3,000 rands. Bash, 750. Takeaways, 300 rands. Stock fell, 500 rands. She says it's a December stock fell. Not bad. I mean, stock fell is starting to become a pandemic, but this is not a bad amount. So, I'll let it fly. Tithe, 1,000 rands. Hair, 600 rands. Cosmetics, 500 rands. Money I gave to people, 700 rands. This is what she did last month. She gave money to people who asked, 700 rands. I said, okay, this month, how much are you going to give to people who asked? She said, no, I'm not going to give anyone anything this month. So that money goes into our recoupment fund. Clothing, 1,400 rands. She says these were winter clothes for her child, and again, she's not going to spend anything for clothing this month. So we have that 1,400 rands into the recoupment fund. In total, her monthly expenses are 45,695 rands. So she has a bit of a shortfall there from her income of 44,000 rands, but that's only because she hasn't been accounting for the reimbursements that her husband has been giving her. So that's why she's been continuing to feel broke, despite having all this extra money that her husband pays her back for some of his expenses that she takes care of. So now we are not going to do that anymore. We are not going to continue to act like we live on a negative when in fact we do get some reimbursements. So from all the amounts that we recouped, all the items that we recouped, we have a total of 7,700 rands. From that 7,700 rands, we are going to take out the 1,700 rands shortfall so that we are in line, so that we are not lying to ourselves on the amount of money we are left with. The amount of money that we are actually left with after accounting for the shortfall will be 6,000 rands. So 6,000 rands is the amount of money that immediately this month end, if we follow the plan, 6,000 rands is what we are going to have to be able to start paying off those small debts. And you guys know she does not have an emergency fund. We are going to start by taking, in the first month, take 1,000 rands. You know, even if it's the smallest amount you can get, put 1,000 rands towards an emergency fund. Then the remaining 5,000 starting this month, and she's going to pay extra towards the debt. We went over the plan together. If she snowballs the debt and she makes those extra payments, Bash, FinChoice, and the personal loan, she'll be done paying them in exactly 3 months. Then after 3 months, she'll just be left with the apartment debt as well as the car. And the beauty of paying off debt is that pay just now, FinChoice, personal loan, as well as Bash. Now all those monthly payments will be coming back into her pocket. You know, finally, the total amount of those loans is 8,500 rands. Now in 3 months, when she's done paying those loans, not only is she going to be left with 8,500 rands, but it's going to be added onto the 6,000 rands that we're currently working on. So in total, in 3 months, she'll have 14,500 rands that is not going towards debt unless she wants to start paying extra towards the car, which she can, but that 14,500 rands will be available for her to increase the emergency fund, buy the tiles and get a tenant, start a TFSA for herself, for her child, and I said for the husband as well, also depending on, does he have a TFSA? Is he blacklisted? And that's why we had to get FinChoice for him, you know, but that conversation with the husband needs to happen, because just imagine this woman in 3 months, she's going to be in such a beautiful place to move her family forward. And it would be a beautiful thing if what she has learned during this process, you know, the process of paying off debt and then seeing your money come back to you, if she can be able to figure out exactly where her husband is, that could change a lot of things. You know, if he's in debt, we could help him pay, you know, with some of the money that we have left. If he's not in debt, he could help us, you know, contribute towards investments. Then instead of the family contributing 14,000 towards investments, the family can contribute 20,000, 30,000. Or like I said, there could also be a possibility that the amount would have to reduce from the one that we are currently looking at based on where the husband is. But we can only work towards that financial freedom for their family once we have the husband's finances in full. Currently, we might think we are moving forward, only to find out we have more problems than we think, or we have more money than we think. But, you know, she needs to speak to her husband. She said she will. Who knows, maybe next time we speak, we'll be speaking on the combined finances of the household. But for today, please let me know your thoughts on our sister's finances. Please like this video if you found value in it. Subscribe if you haven't already. I will see you guys in the next video. Until then, I hope you have a rich day.